John K. Wilson is the author of the upcoming book, The Most Dangerous Man in America, Rush Limbaugh's Assault on Reason. John, welcome to the Young Turks.
Glad to be here.
All right, great to have you. All right, first of all, I know that you had a look at Zev's book, and so did I. And you think that perhaps he wasn't very balanced in the way he covered Limbaugh. Is that right?
Well, of course he wasn't balanced. I mean, he is writing a book for a right-wing publisher. He's someone who's very friendly with Limbaugh and got his cooperation because of that. So it's not a balanced book in the sense that it's very much pro-Limbaugh. What I object to is it really evades a lot of the problems and inaccuracies and conspiracy theories that Rush Limbaugh talks about all the time, and it treats him as if he's just a little comedian on the air who's got a great show.
Yeah, that's you pointed out something interesting in what you wrote, which is that whenever Rush Limbaugh says something outrageous, Zev seems to give him a pass and say, "Oh, he was just kidding. Isn't he so funny?" And but about all the other stuff, he says, "Oh, he's so serious. Look at how much influence he has on everybody." So
well, and that's something that Fisher Stevens was just talking about. Is this the persona of Rush Limbaugh, or is it something he really believes? And Zev Chafets sort of goes back and forth on that. Sometimes he says he's joking. Sometimes he treats him like he's the intellectual leader of the conservative movement. And I think there is a truth in both of those things. It is partly an exaggerated persona that Rush Limbaugh has. It's not what he's like in his behind-the-scenes life, but it is, I think, a great deal of what he really believes in terms of his right-wing attitudes and a lot of the right-wing conspiracy theories that he puts forward on his show.
John, what are some of those conspiracy theories?
Well, the one he's pushed most frequently is the idea, most recently, is the idea that Obama is intentionally destroying the economy in order to enhance his own political power. And that's an idea that's so ridiculous that even conservatives like Michael Medved have pointed out how absurd it is. I mean, clearly you can attack Obama for lots of things, but not that he's trying to intentionally destroy America. And, of course, the irony of that is that Rush Limbaugh is the one who said, "I hope he fails," is the kind of guiding philosophy, that Rush Limbaugh is the one who is really hoping for failure, not Barack Obama.
John, we have a decoder for Limbaugh. It's our producer, J.R. Jackson's theory, that whatever he says the Democrats are doing is what he would like to do, right? So he wants America to fail, so he projects that onto Obama, saying, well, Obama's trying to get America to fail so he can get more power, when in fact Limbaugh thinks, if Obama fails, I get more power. That's great.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of projection in what Rush Limbaugh says, whether it's attacking his enemies as stupid and idiotic, and all the other things that he says. Is there is an enormous amount of projection in how he likes to. He wants to blame everything on liberalism, and so that ultimately, whenever something goes wrong in the world, whether it's the economy or the oil spill in the Gulf, it's always the fault of liberalism, and that's sort of a common thing you can find in his show on an everyday basis.
Right, and he's got this conspiracy that you also talk about. I saw it in the book about. He's like, oh, one day they'll destroy me. The left will destroy me. Who's the left? Who's destroying you? How are they going to do it? It's funny because once again that's projection. Because if anybody's going to destroy him, it's him. Through the drug use, etc. And Zev glosses over all of that too. Oh, he had some back pain and, he might have said something about, druggies once, but come on, give the guy a pass. And I think that what the audience might not be getting, why are we talking so much about Zev, the author of this book, Zev Chafets? It's because since he is a guy who wrote a New York Times Magazine profile on him, he has the veneer of, what Limbaugh and the conservatives thing would call the liberal media. So is he abusing that to then say, like, it's as if, okay, look, the liberal media wrote a book about Rush Limbaugh, and they agree that Rush kicks ass. That's why I think it's important that we discuss whether Zev himself is actually liberal or conservative. And what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, he's certainly conservative. There's not much doubt about that. He was the press officer for the Likud government of Israel in the past, and he wrote a column for townhall.com. I mean, he wrote this book for Sentinel, which is an explicitly right-wing publishing arm of Simon and Schuster. So there's not really much doubt about him being a conservative. The question is whether he's a fair-minded conservative or whether he's someone who's in essence kind of selling out and giving Limbaugh fans what they want and not being a real critical journalist, which there are a lot of conservatives like David Frum who have been very critical of Limbaugh, who have really done the job that somebody like Zev Chafets, who had this enormous opportunity. Limbaugh says he spoke to Chafets for 16 hours. There's a lot you could learn about Limbaugh in that, but very little of it comes through in the book.
Yeah, and now I want to get to the main issue, and we're talking to John Wilson. His upcoming book is The Most Dangerous Man in America, Rush Limbaugh's Assault on Reason. The one thing I did find interesting about the book, John, and I shared this with the audience yesterday, is that the first third of the book, he talks about who Rush Limbaugh was. You know, Rusty Limbaugh, DJ Jeff Christie, Bachelor, whatever. You know, all his different radio personalities, and how he didn't really have any political opinions that he shared with family or friends until the age of 35. Is there some chance that this whole thing is just a radio shtick, and that he might not even really believe it, that he's just doing an act?
I think that's very unlikely. I think it's really hard to do that. I think it is true that he was not a very political person. For example, he never even voted for Ronald Reagan, who was his idol. He was someone who's very lazy intellectually and politically for a long time until he realized he could turn his DJ stick into a political talk show stick. But at the core, Rush Limbaugh is someone who is not a very intellectual person. He's not someone who challenges the basic beliefs he's been taught all his life. And he was brought up by a very conservative Republican family. He simply has never thought about a lot of the things that he believes. He really inherited his religious beliefs, his political beliefs from his family, and he's never challenged them. And I have no reason to believe that he really fundamentally disagrees with very much of what he says.
Yeah, but, what struck me was that here he was, doing these different radio personalities, and then these shock jocks come along, Howard Stern, Don Imus, etc., and then Morton Downey in Sacramento, who Rush wound up replacing. And so Rush tries this shtick. Okay, I'll be a shock jock on the conservative side, and that seems to work, and then he just kind of runs with it. So I don't think that he's secretly a liberal or a moderate. I believe those are his real so-called opinions, but whether he actually believes them in the way that he states them, in the over-the-top way, and how he's always right and everybody else is always wrong, and the libs are destroying the country, and and the NAACP practices riots, is that part of shtick?
Yeah, I think that is part of his shtick. All of his, and a lot of even the kind of racism and anti-gay and sexist things he says. He believes them, but he in some ways exaggerates them for his audience, and that to me is the bigger concern. If the audience rejected the kind of conspiracy theories and racist and sexist things that Rush Limbaugh says, and all of that kind of hateful remarks he makes, I'm firmly convinced that Rush Limbaugh would tone down his show to appeal to his audience and to his advertisers. The fact that he doesn't says something about where the conservative movement is today in a very alarming way, that it's kind of an anti-intellectual, bigoted movement led by Rush Limbaugh, the persona, as well as the person.
See, in Zev's book, there was another interesting anecdote in there about his producer and helper on the show, Bo Snerdley, the guy who goes by the name of Bo Snerdley on air. He's African American, and for the first time, because of these interviews that's being done, he talks to Bo Snerdley about his real beliefs and how he grew up black, and he's blown away by it. Like he didn't know that he thought all these things, that of course black people in America were discriminated against, etc. I found incredible naivete there, and Rush grew up and went to school in a de facto segregated school. Do you think he just has never thought about what the black perspective in America is, doesn't care, and is that really an indictment of Rush?
Well, in some ways I think it is, and even Zev Chafets, and the one criticism he makes for Rush is that suggesting that he might have a blind spot on race and not understand this kind of thing, and how his kind of sidekick, Bo Snerdley, said that he doesn't celebrate Independence Day because of that issue of slavery. That he regards it as kind of white people's Independence Day, which is something I think that did shock Rush, and it actually shocks me too, because Bo Snerdley is a loyal, subservient guy to Rush and a conservative. So you wouldn't necessarily expect that kind of perspective, and it's clear that Rush didn't expect that. But it fundamentally doesn't affect what Rush does, particularly because the audience for Rush's show is not, conservative African Americans. It's conservative white men, and that's been the people he's been appealing to. That's the people he understands, and that's really the core audience for what Rush Limbaugh does.
I don't know if I'm going to be too tough here, but let me ask you one last question on about Rush in regards to his past. When you read his background, he was a grade A loser, right? I mean, he would try sports, fail, try whatever he tried, career, fail, school, fail. Everything was epic fail, right? And so
absolutely.
And so I wonder if the part of his success is because he represents the bitterness of all those failures, and a lot of people relate to his right-wing audience relates to that, like, damn it, we're not winning and it's not going right, and Rush displays that bitterness perfectly.
I think there's a certain truth to that, in the sense of bitterness, in the sense of distrust of particularly Rush Limbaugh hated education and schooling, and to this day has a distrust of all intellectual life, and is very proud of the fact that he doesn't read the New York Times or anything else. In fact, that he hadn't even read Zev Chafets' book, although he promoted it and endorsed it. So I think there is a kind of bitterness that Limbaugh appeals to among conservative white males, and that is a lot of what his audience is, and it's a disturbing part of America, this kind of conspiracy theory, hatred towards Obama, and fear of immigrants. All of these things are really embodied in what Rush Limbaugh believes, and he really represents that strain of conservatism and has pushed it to the top of the Republican Party today.
All right, that was some good Rush Limbaugh bashing. I enjoyed that. Okay. John Wilson's book is coming out in January of 2011. It's called The Most Dangerous Man in America, Rush Limbaugh's Assault on Reason. John, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, and you can go to limbaughbook.com to read the review.
All right, there you go, limbaughbook.com.